Prime Minister Andrew Holness has signaled that it's time for the country to move towards a gradual resumption of full economic activity. Speaking in the House of Representatives last evening, the Prime Minister says it's time for Jamaicans to take ultimate responsibility for their own lives as COVID-19 becomes endemic. He gave the stern warning as he outlined slightly relaxed measures ahead of the Christmas period. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
Prime Minister Holness is not expecting a Happy New Year. Addressing the House of Representatives yesterday, he says the government is bracing for a fourth wave of COVID-19 infections as the country exits the festive season in January.
A number of countries, particularly in Europe, are experiencing their fourth wave. Some experts predict that it is only a matter of time before it moves through the North America and the Caribbean region. So yes, Madam Speaker, we are expecting and we are preparing for a fourth wave. And it is likely to come in early January up to just after Christmas.
The Prime Minister noted that the country currently is seeing a decline in cases and has announced a relaxation of the curfew times by an additional hour. This means Jamaicans will now be required to be home by 9 p.m. and can return to normal activities at 5 a.m. The new measures will run until December 10. Mr. Holness told the Parliament that this signals a gradual return to full economic activity for the nation.
The changes to the measures I'm announcing today represents the start of a cautious, gradual and controlled approach towards getting the economy back to full productivity. COVID-19 has evolved from a pandemic to being endemic. The highly transmissible nature of the Delta variant and ongoing vaccine hesitancy have made the goal of zero COVID-19 virtually unachievable. The SARS-CoV-2 virus is here to stay. It is in its current form or some variant thereof, the virus will be with us.
The Prime Minister made it clear that those still refusing to be vaccinated can no longer be allowed to hold the remainder of the population at ransom. Directly addressing the health system, he stated this means resources for COVID-19 treatment will eventually be capped.
The government will ultimately have no choice but to allocate a finite set of resources to managing COVID-related hospitalizations, including a fixed number of beds. We cannot continue to dedicate virtually the entire capacity of the health system to dealing only with COVID-19 to the detriment of all other legitimate health system users.
Mr. Holness says it's time for the country to move on to address the other major issues, chief among them crime. He says the fate of each Jamaican is now in their own hands.
We must get on with the business of the country and focus our attention on addressing the many other pressing issues that are facing our citizens. For example, Madam Speaker, the epidemic of crime and violence and the learning loss caused by the pandemic. Madam Speaker, I leave it in the hands of the people.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Holness made it clear that it's not the intention of the government to again close schools.
So, Madam Speaker, we have reopened our schools. We have seen cases reported of possible exposure to COVID-19. We haven't shut them when they have opened. We tell them to sanitize, clean up, isolate the child, keep them at home. But we're not going to close the schools again. So we're just gradually opening up.
Partial resumption of face-to-face classes began earlier this month after nearly a year and a half of the nation's children only able to attend classes virtually. Mr. Holness says that the country is nearing the point where continued imposition of strict COVID-19 measures is resulting in serious frustration.
If it is that we have reached this level of frustration with the measures, so much so that it is creating social discontent and creating perverse choices and behaviors. We can't continue to have that, so we have to take down the measures. We will do so gradually, and we will face this brave new post-COVID world where it is your responsibility to maintain your social distance, wear your mask, sanitize, use your head and say, where should I go, where I shouldn't go?
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, he was speaking in the House of Representatives yesterday. And opposition MP Julian Robinson says he has no issues with the new measures. He says that the adjustment of the curfew times makes practical sense.
Opposition doesn't take any issue with the new measures that have been announced. I would say extending the curfew to 9 o'clock makes eminent sense, and I would say practically, if you're on the road at 9 o'clock, you still have a lot of people trying to get home, and so I think it's a good move to give persons an additional hour to complete their business after work. For small businesses that depend on patronage in the night, whether they be supermarkets, the pan chicken man, fast food entities, the extra hour will allow them to earn more. So we take no issue with that.
Mr. Robinson says he also supports providing vaccinated Jamaicans with a preferential treatment.
I do believe some form of encouragement where people who have played by the rules, have done everything. I'm fully vaccinated, Chris, I would like my booster. When can I get it? I want my third shot, right? So those who are fully vaccinated, I believe, should enjoy some privileges that those who have chosen not to be fully vaccinated. So in summary, Prime Minister, what you have announced here, I take no issue with as an opposition.
Julian Robinson, Member of Parliament for South East St. Andrew.